Okay, good morning, people. No startup musics for today. I was a bit late. Good morning, Swapnil, Bhavika, Anushka, Aishwarya, Pradnya, Avikshit, Shubham. Good morning to all of you all. Let's start with a few more good mornings now. Shubham, Ajay, Vaishnavi, Sachin, Ketaki, Sonia, Saraswati. Good morning to all of you all. And Sanchita Kulkarni as well. Neha, good morning. Well, a few things that I wanted to start with today is I don't know how many of y'all are actually, how many of y'all are actually looking into the thumbnail images that I put for every day's lecture. Any idea what today's photograph meant about? What is it all about? It's a very interesting thing that happens on the Canary Islands, which are just off the coast of Spain. You'll see that the Canary Islands basically are formed out of volcanic eruptions. And the soil here is volcanic, and obviously it's very rich in minerals. And having said that, what you see in the base now, I would want you all to go back to that photograph after we finish, probably or later, or I'll post it in our group also. You'll see that what they do is they basically dig out the surfaces and then they plant grape. Say grape cultivation is done in the at the base of that, and you can see the scale of how large these so-called dugouts are. Basically, because you can see a car there and you can see a human being standing there, and so on and so forth. Now, the reason why they are placed in the dugout is because of the winds that blow. Now, you'll see that as far as grape cultivation is concerned, a grape bunch of grapes basically, it's very delicate, and you have very fast blowing winds in these areas. So to protect it from those winds, they place it down. I would like you all to go back to the thumbnail image that I have posted for today's lecture, and check into that. Okay, by the time I may post it on our group as well. So it's a very interesting thing. That's the very reason why geography is called a jack of all trades. In fact, you'll see that the other day we were speaking about something else. Today we are speaking about something else. In fact, also the fact that on Sunday I posted a few scans from the Times of India. Now, yesterday I put up two scans, and one of them was about the mobility, while the other was about the nutrition and so on and so forth. So the interest of geography as a subject, it's simply so vast that as the definition of this subject goes, anything and everything, not only under the sun but below the surface of the crust, also below the surface of the earth, also will impress a geographer, and you can choose from any of these as a hobby option, a career option, or whatever it is. And that's why, if you remember, last time also our student did ask me about what are the career prospects. I said that to pinpoint a career aspect for a geographer is a bit difficult, basically because it depends on say which sector of geography you choose as far as your interest is concerned. Okay, so for example, if you are interested in urbanization, your sector is going to be different. If you are interested in tourism, your sector is going to be different. If you're interested in agriculture, your sector is going to be different. Yes, they are all integrated to each other, but uh, when it comes to a specialized interest, you have to go deeper into that aspect as such. And thus the whole scope of geography as a subject is so huge, and we're going to come to that. And as I said, and the title of today's lecture itself, it's rounding up. What has happened is we have been speaking more and more, and as my habit to digress, because the love that I have for this particular subject is I could just go on, go on for months together, and eventually we would not be able to touch our syllabus. Of course, that would not happen. We do actually take up a significant part of our syllabus also, and when we go into the syllabus, I will remind you that okay, we were doing this here and there, and so on and so forth. So that was one thing, and yeah, as far as the change of subject is concerned, the committee has met yesterday, and as we had already displayed in the notice as such, that you would not be allowed to shift to history, economics, and the third subject was politics. Okay, so these shifts have not been allowed. Rest of the shifts more or less are allowed. As far as medium is concerned, Marathi to English is not allowed. English to Marathi, however, has been allowed. So around 50 students had applied for the whole of it, and around 40 of them were subject change and 10 of them were medium change. As I said, to English was not allowed. Away from English into Marathi has been allowed, and entry into the three subjects which have already been overloaded, like history and English. Sorry, history and politics and economics have not been allowed. All other are have been allowed as such. So we spoke about that as well. And let us immediately shift to what we were doing last time. And in fact, last time we did speak about gaining and losing of time. And once again, to just repeat it for your information, the fact that wherever you are, when you move towards the eastern direction from where you are going to lose time. And when you move towards your west, you are going to gain time. I had just misspelled it to some extent last time, and that's why I wanted to clarify it, that whenever you move towards your east, you're going to lose time. Okay, you lose time when you go to your east, you gain time when you go towards the west. It's exactly opposites. Now this is relative. What happens with regards the 0 degrees longitude or a particular longitude is different, and when it happens with regards an individual. Now why is this different? Basically because when you are, see, every longitude has its own timing, but as far as an individual, you'll see you move with the time, you move with the time. So when you are in Mumbai, your timing is different. When you go to Singapore, your timing is going to be different. When you are in Mumbai, your timing is going to be different, as I said. And when you fly to Dubai, the timings travel with you, and that is why you have to keep this in mind. You move towards the east, you're going to lose time. You move towards the west, you are going to gain time. And of course, then the calculations of about what the local time here is, what the local time there is. Many a time there could be a complex question that they would give you the timing for GMT. Of course, they have to give you the references of the local times also. So there would be a bit of mathematical calculations involved in that. Also remember that there would be flight time. So flight time has to be added into that, those whole calculations also added, in the sense when you move in and from the particular time, and so on and so forth. So that was also something that we were doing last time. And yeah, towards the end, of course, we discussed this, but then before that, we interestingly took up this. Okay. If you remember, I had posted this, and I had basically told you all about how with minimum availability of things around you, you could actually gauge the different directions as far as the north, east, south, and west is concerned. I said that as far as the sun position here is concerned, it is moving this way and it is not going to cross overhead. And that is why one of the student had a confusion and he had asked me a question about that. Secondly, one question that I was asked was, why is the height of that particular stick limited to 90 centimeters? Frankly speaking, even I did not know about it. And I have forwarded this question to the source of this particular post. And the answer is expected in a couple of days. So let us see why those 90 centimeters and why not 100 or 1 meter, or as a matter of fact, why not 110 centimeters? Okay, what is so specific? Let us, we will know. Then an important thing that I would like to remind you all, there was some confusion about the directions last time. Okay, now remember that the shadow of the stick is going to move in the opposite direction of the sun. Okay, so if the sun goes this way, the shadow would be this way, right? Okay, if this is the stick and this is the sun from here, if the sun is going to move this way, the shadow which was here is going to move this way. And that is why it says that when you link those lines, you place the tip of your left foot on the first rock and the right foot on the second tip, on the second rock, and that is going to be your north. That is not going to be south. Even I was a bit confused about it last time, and that is why I went back and I tried to analyze the whole thing, and that is how it happens. Normally, what I was thinking, let me be very frank with you, what I was thinking is that the shadow should move with the sun, but yes, I was wrong there, because physics would say that the shadow would move in the opposite direction. As a consequence, the thing moving is going to be in a particular direction. You place your shoes in a particular way as mentioned in the diagram, and you get the north. Of course, you've already got the east and west, and you get the north, and of course the back of you is going to be the south. So that is as far as the natural compass was concerned. Yes, this is something which is I would say partially a part of your syllabus, if you say so, partially not a part of your syllabus, if you say so. But I would say you consider it to be a part of your syllabus as such. Okay, now what are these themes? In the sense, the very fact that we were speaking that any news article or a write-up by a well-known author, I'm going to post a few today also, interests me as a geographer, basically because geography works on a lot many things. Okay, you'll see that and that's what gives a lot of themes as far as these aspects, these themes of geography are concerned. So when I'm speaking about geography, what do I have in my mind? When I look at an object, what are the various things that I need to relate to that object as such? Okay, let us go into them one by one. One thing that we have already studied about is the first point, and that is the location. Okay, when I speak about location, say where is that particular object located? Giving you the absolute location basically means using the latitude and longitude, and giving relative location is basically describing the whereabouts of nearabouts as far as that particular location is concerned. Now, how does when you do a mathematical pinpointing location, you're going to call it as an absolute location. When you relate it to something, it's going to be called as a relative location. Absolute location, you take the longitude, you see what latitude is, both of them are crossing at that particular point, so that is the latitude and longitude of that particular location. On the other hand, so for example, I want to give you the an absolute location for SP College. I will take the latitude, longitude, longitude, latitude, and give you the absolute location. Relative location, I would say, the SP College, it's very near to Deccan Gymkhana, or SP College, it's very near to Swargate. Or to be more precise, I would say that there is this road which joins Deccan Gymkhana on one side and Swargate on the other side. It's called as the Tilak Road. And when you travel from Deccan Gymkhana towards Swargate, more about towards the center of this whole length, SP College would be to your right hand side. On the other hand, if you are traveling from Swargate to Deccan Gymkhana, again towards the midpoint, approximately the midpoint, SP College would be to your left hand. So this is how you are relating the location of SP College. Now, this would be for people who don't know SP College and would probably be knowing Swargate and Deccan Gymkhana basically because they are more known places. Now, just imagine that somebody is looking out for SP's Biryani House. I hope most of you all know where and what the SP's Biryani House is. It's just opposite to SP College. Of course, the SP in that has nothing to do with the college name as such. It's just because it's opposite. So, and because of that, if anybody asks you that, can you guide me to the SP's Biryani House? You would say that's very easy. It's just opposite to the SP College. You would not give him, her the latitude, longitude as such. So, relating it or mentioning a location in a relative sense makes more sense rather than an absolute sense, basically because absolute sense of location would require your knowledge of latitude, longitude, where you are and all that. Relative is so simple. You just pick up an object and you say that it's next to it, it's behind this, it's opposite it. So both the types of locations are equally important. Now, there is another thing that I would like to remind you all as far as absolute location is concerned. When I'm crisscrossing the latitude, longitude, and pinpointing a particular place, it's called as an absolute location. And you'll see that many a times, if you've studied India as regional geography in 11th, 12th, or even 10th standard as such, what you may have seen is location and extent of India. Now, location is one thing. What does this word extent mean? Extent means it comes from the word extended. From which point to which point does it expand? Okay, east-west, what is the extent? North-south, what is the extent? So I would be taking 4 points. If I'm speaking about the extent of India, I would be taking 4 points: the westernmost, the easternmost, the northernmost, and the southernmost. Now, let us say that the westernmost point of India is Dwarka, and the easternmost point of India is Walong in Arunachal Pradesh. The northernmost is Gilgit, and the southernmost mainland is Kanyakumari. Okay, so giving the latitudes and longitudes of these 4 points will give me the whole extent of India. Now, why do we use location at some point of time, and why do we use extent at some point of time? For the same place also it happens, let me tell you. Say, for example, if I'm looking for a city like Pune, and I have the whole global map in front of you, which is, the map is just A4 size. Now, just imagine Pune on that is going to be a very, very, very small dot. Now, that dot, when I crisscross it with the latitude, longitude, that is going to be an absolute location. When I'm going to zoom down into that particular area, okay, I want to go into Pune. So when I'm zooming, I would come to Asia probably, and then I would go to India, further zoom down, Maharashtra, further zoom down, Pune district, and in that I would have Pune city. Okay, now if I further zoom down, now Pune city is in front of me now with all these zoom ins, is no more just a point. It's an extent now. So I have to take the western corner of Pune city, the eastern corner of Pune city, the northern corner of Pune city, the southern corner of Pune city, and that is what is going to give me the extent of Pune city as such. So the same thing can be referred as to what you want, how you actually want to express it based on the scale. If you're looking for Pune on the world map, it is going to be location. If you're going to zoom into Pune city as such, then you are looking at the extent. So any object on the surface of this planet requires location, and location is one of the first themes that things that comes to the mind of a geographer as such. Okay. Then the second thing that we need to look about is, I'll try to put this together. We may miss out on a few things, but yeah. Second thing is place. What is that particular place called like? In the sense that what are its characteristics? Okay, what is it like? What makes that place unique? Say, for example, now here in the slide you see New York is the home for the Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, and of course millions of diverse people, and so on and so forth. So what makes that place unique is something that a geographer would also be interested in. Now remember, every place will have two major aspects: natural characteristics and human characteristics as such. Okay, and in fact that is what divides geography into physical geography that we are going to do in the first semester, and human geography that is going to be followed up in the second semester. So all about nature. Now what is physical geography? As I said, geography is everything under the sun. Now if you remove human beings from the whole scenario, that is going to be physical geography or natural geography. Marathi students would have known this by Prakrutik Bhugol. Okay, so and the moment you introduce human being into that, okay, and man becomes dominant in that place, that scenario, you are going to have it in the form of human geography as such. Now there's a very interesting thing that you have to note, that you'll see that as far as the natural aspects are concerned, okay, if you remove human beings, you can still work on the natural aspect. But if you put human being and you remove the natural aspects, then you won't have a human environment. That's very important. You may say that you may speak about the most densely populated regions of the world, but you'll see that these regions also are dependent on natural characteristics. Say, for example, rainfall, because all this population is going to require water, temperature, and and of course agricultural, food, etc. So while natural, I would say in statistical terms, in an independent character, Human characteristics are basically a dependent character. Why? Because we may think we are very, very powerful and we can do anything on this particular planet. But remember, I've said this earlier also, man is not more than 5 million years old on this planet. 5 million years old as compared to the 4.6 billion years of existence of this particular planet is nothing more. Now, there's a very interesting scenario that comes up, that if I put these 5.6 billion years that, sorry, 4.6 billion years on a clock scale. So if I equate 4.6 billion years to 24 hours, okay, you'll see that if you put human being who has come here 5 million years ago, what time it would be when man is supposed to enter on this whole clock scale as such. Okay, say for example, in a day, the day starts at midnight, and then you have early morning, man has not come; noon, man has not come; evening 6 o'clock, man has not come; evening 8 o'clock, man has not come; night 10 o'clock, man has not come; night 11 o'clock, man still has not come. 11 o'clock and 58 minutes. In fact, it is more than that. I'm just generalizing it. 11 o'clock in the night and 58 minutes have already passed by. And it's only the last 2 minutes for which man has been on this planet for. Okay, so all these claims about patting our backs, etc., is just for those 2 minutes, and it's in fact 1.5 minutes of the whole scale that this earth has been living for. So that's a very interesting fact that we have to keep in mind, that we are a part of that ecosystem that the nature has weaved around us, and we have to be in habitation with this particular ecosystem. We have to keep these ecosystems sustained, or we will have problems like extinction, lack of resources, and of course all those problems like climate change and so on and so forth. So that is very important, and in fact that is the next point that geographers normally tend to work around as well. Okay, you'll see that it's the human environment and interactions. We'll put it this way so that we can have all of this. Okay, as I said, that human relations with the nature are in fact dependent on natural characteristics. So how do human beings, how do people interact with the environment? You'll see that a farmer is going to interact differently, a politician is going to interact differently, an engineer is going to interact differently, a doctor interacts differently. Okay, now this is individual work, right, of an individual. But how do human beings, okay, how do people use the environment? How have people adapted to the environment? You'll see that in deserts, the adaptation is different. In equatorial regions, the adaptation is different. In tundra regions, the adaptation is different. This is a part of study that a geographer has to look into. How have people modified and changed the environment? You'll see all that urban area around you, those who are watching this lecture from rural areas, all that rural part around you. Fringe areas, fringe is basically borderlines of urban and rural, and core urban area. You'll see that all these individually are modifications that those relative areas have been brought about into, and that is how human beings interact. Sometimes they adapt, sometimes they see that the surroundings are made to adapt. Okay, how do the people change the environment? How does the environment affect their life? Okay, you'll see that all this from an hurricane, like you see in front of your screens, okay, to a drought, or last week we were speaking about the rains that we have had in major parts of Maharashtra. How are we going to adapt to it? Okay, now we have human systems. Okay, ही कालजी मदत जाहीर झालेली आहे. 10,000 crore rupees is what I hear is the CM of Maharashtra has announced. Now these are human systems. Nature has had its say now, and we have to see that this farmer who has to stand up and has to deliver food for the next year as well, he has to be supported. Now these are human systems. So this is human environment interaction. Okay, you'll see that it's not always that the environment is adverse. You'll see that the basic areas where you grow agriculture is you're growing crops basically because nature has provided you with that particular area with very fertile soil. Okay, sometimes it so happens that you may have heavy rains and you may have floodings and so on and so forth. As a consequence, you may have to interact using human interactions. But remember, you are basically within the natural framework as such. So this is the third theme. The first theme was locating. Okay. And once you have located the place, what are its specialities? What are its natural characteristics? What are its human characteristics? Is the second theme. The third theme is how human beings interact with the environment, how they change it, how do they change themselves, and so on and so forth. Let us see what is happening as far as the fourth theme is concerned. As far as the fourth theme is concerned, it is all about movement. Okay, you'll see. Yeah, we yesterday I posted the first article with regards movement. Why is it necessary for man to move? Okay, we may have realized now, when we were moving, we were fed up of moving. But now that we are forced into an closed enclosure of our individual homes, you'll see we've realized how important moving was. You'll see that the moment the lockdown came in, you'll see that people started going out. During the lockdown, only the essentials were moving. Now, other things also have to move. How do people move? Why do people move? What moves along with people? All this is studied under uh, movement. That's the fourth theme as geography. You'll see that this movement is what is going to enrich the human environment. All the business that takes place is because of this because of this movement. If you remember, I said that you should not be selling umbrellas in Rajasthan, and you should not be selling sweaters in Mumbai, or ice jackets in Mumbai, or you should not be selling cotton t-shirts in high in the Himalayas. You'll see that the movement is all about trade. The movement is all about business. The movement is all about getting profit out of all this. Okay, making things available at the right place at the right time, so that it gives you a decent profit. The profit should not be exploitationist. The profit should not be exorbitant, but it should earn you a living as such. So it's how people move, why people move, goods are made to move, what are the sources. That's another thing, that in fact that's the fourth major thing that we study in geography. In fact, you'll see that it is ideas also that move. You'll see that what is in fashion, or what comes up in the urban area, slowly travels into the rural area as such. If you remember, I remember of this very interesting example of sachets. Okay, you have these small sachets of oil and shampoo and etc etc. I was very astonished to read a research paper on it. I initially thought that sachets were basically meant for urban areas. However, that research paper said that sachets were targeting the rural areas. So this is how ideas move. Okay, ideas would move from rural to urban areas. Ideas would move from one region of the country to the other. Ideas could move from one country to the other. Like how we are treating COVID, you'll see that when we started using I think hydroxychloroquine tablet for treating COVID patients, initially the idea moved. You'll see that it was used in Germany, it was used in England, it was used in the US as well. So everything moves, and that tracking this move is basically the fourth theme as far as of geography is concerned. So that is as far as movement is concerned. And last but of course not the least of the themes as such, is region. Okay, we studied natural regions like the equatorial region, and the hot deserts and the cold deserts, and the Mediterranean region, which we spoke about in the tundra and the monsoon region. What are all these regions about? How is it that how can the place be divided into regions? To what regions does a place stand about? Okay, so how might common geographic characteristics help us understand a particular region? When I'm speaking about Rajasthan, the very fact that hot and dry area comes into your mind is because Rajasthan has been identified as a dry region. When I'm speaking about the Himalayas, when I'm speaking about the Shivaliks, okay, coldness comes into your mind because that's another region that geographers have invented for us, or rather they have studied for us, I would say. Northeastern part of India, when the moment I say Assam and Arunachal and other parts, I think of a lot of rain. So that is now within India. You'll see that we have classified this. When we speak about the area immediately to the east of the Sahyadris, I think about the rain shadow. Okay, and I think about Western Maharashtra, and think about Satara, and I think about Solapur, and all these places which lie in the rain shadow region of Maharashtra. So this is regionalization. You take a common characteristic, and then you see that how many regions have that particular characteristic. You would name that characteristic on that particular region as such. In the sense, when we speak about, when if you remember your school days and you marked those equatorial regions on the world map, you have equatorial regions in Africa, you have equatorial regions in South America, you have equatorial regions in Asia also. Same thing, the equatorial climate being carried all around the world, that is called as regionalization. Of course, that is natural regionalization. Artificial regionalization, I've just spoken about it. If you have forgotten it, rural parts. What are the characteristics of rural parts? People are engaged in primary activities, that's agriculture, etc. So you call that area as a rural part. The moment you come to an urban part, you speak about service sector and manufacturing. You hardly have, you may have, but you hardly have primary activities as such. So that is how, on the basis of human characteristics. Now you'll see that all these 5 themes, what these 5 themes do is basically they mix up, they put all these things together to such an extent, and that is why you have is this huge panorama of the study of geography, and that is why geography is called as the jack of all trades. Okay, you have to know anything, everything. Any question asked to you, you should be relating, as a geographer, you should be relating it to its location, its place, its relationship with the environment. What are the movements into that particular place? What are the movements away from that particular place? Does that particular place have peculiar geographical characters that can be identified with some other regions in some other parts of the world? So all these interesting things are put together when we speak about the themes of geography, the 5 main themes of geography. Okay, location, place, human environment interaction, movement, and regions. Now, how is this related to our syllabus? You'll see that in your syllabus you would have nature and scope of geography. Okay, so on these 5 points, you can give me 5 pages of writing easily. Of course, I'll give you some reference material that you can read through that as well. But with all the discussions that we have come about this single slide, I don't think you would have any problems writing down 300 words as far as the major themes of geography is concerned. As if you have any questions, of course, you can keep them in mind, and you could type them in the comment box, and we'll come back to that also. Okay, then another aspect which I would say would be directly related to your syllabus or indirectly related to your syllabus is when we speak about geography. I told you all that the most simplest definition of geography is where we study anything and everything under the sun, under the surface of the sun, or under the sun on the surface of the earth. And if you remember the 5 themes, okay, location, place, interaction, movement, and regions. We do all these things with that particular region. But if I zoom in further, okay, what is, when we speak about interaction, what is all this interaction about? When we speak about natural interaction, what is this natural interaction about? Now, if you go to Google and search for what are the various spheres of geography or the earth, you normally will get these 4 spheres. Okay, these 4 spheres. Okay, I'm going to get you the science behind this also, and then of course interrelating with all of these is the central sphere. And then I've kept this aside purposely with a reason. I'll come to that. But you'll see that till recently, or let us start from the very first. When we started understanding geography around it, we first studied, that is how geography progressed. We first studied the land surface because man was a land animal. So initial study of geography was all about land. And that is why, if you remember, the first of the maps, as far as Eratosthenes was concerned, is all about land. We did not know the details of the oceans, and of course, the details of the atmosphere were out of question there. Okay, maybe they must have known a few things, but not in detail. What we knew about in detail was land. But over the period of time, man realized that it is not only land which is playing an important role in his life. You'll see that it's water. and water came to be the second sphere. Okay, the fresh water, the saline water, and all whatnot, all put together was classified as the hydrosphere. And while we kept on thinking that okay, land and water is enough for us to study as far as geography is concerned, strange things started happening, and we did not know where these came from. And of course, this water, where it was coming from the sky, man started thinking about what should be all about these clouds, etc. And thus he started studying air as well. Okay, when we realized that air has important gases which are important for our survival, and that's why studying all this became very important in the form of atmosphere also. Now, if I see the science of it, what are we studying in geography? We are studying solid, liquid, and gas. We are studying solid land, we are studying liquid water, and we are studying gaseous atmosphere as well. So, three basic spheres of life to start with were land initially, then added water, and then, of course, air. Okay, now what moved within this, or what was dependent on this, the interrelationship, that this theme, and that's what makes this diagram very interesting for us. Okay, you'll see that the living world, okay, was associated with all of this. Okay, they required all of this. Man was born on land. His body was made up of more than 70% of water, and of course he required oxygen for his respiration. So the basics of existence of man is around this. Okay, and that is why you'll see that when we speak about the lithosphere, okay, it's minerals, rocks, and the vast moving plates. We're going to come to these theories, very interesting theories of Wegener, and then followed by plate tectonics and so on and so forth on the Earth's crust. So you'll see that I'm already partially touching your syllabus. Okay, then as far as hydrosphere is concerned, it is, I've already spoke about it, that it's the fresh water, it's the saline water, it's the vapor in the clouds, which are all the way there in the atmosphere as such. And of course, as far as the atmosphere is concerned, the gaseous envelope, which contains nitrogen and oxygen and carbon dioxide. And how is it that carbon dioxide is number 4 and argon is number 3? Is there any reference and importance of argon? All these are things which interest a geographer. And of course, then the living organisms of the earth, largely found near land and water surfaces. You'll see that you go further deep, the density and the variety of life decreases. You go further up, okay, the density and variety of life decreases. And in fact, if you see latitude wise also, longitude wise also, there is going to be a difference, but latitude wise, the most diversity is near the equator. You go to the Amazon, you go to the Congo, you go to the forest of Indonesia and Singapore, you have maximum amount of diversity. Now, what do you think is this associated to? This is associated to the energy from the sun. It is not only these four spheres, but how the energy from the sun in the form of heat energy and other forms of energy, it enhances the quality of life. And that's why you'll see that more the amount of energy, wherever you have more amount of energy, the variety and diversity of life is more in those particular geographical regions. No wonder equatorial regions have the maximum variety. You'll see that for the last 2 decades, this fourth globe, or this fourth circle, is knocking on the doors of this particular diagrams. Okay, I have purposely put it separately. Maybe 10 years down the line, we may have joined it and we would have 5 spheres instead of these 4 spheres. As I said, uh, geography is very dynamic. It changes. Okay, you start with one sphere, you added another sphere, you required the third sphere, a cumulative of all these 3 spheres for the fourth sphere. And now we know that the four spheres are not important, are not the extreme important ones. There is another sphere which is called as the cryosphere, CRYSP, cryo, CRYOSPHERE. Okay, if you follow what is called as space technology, these rockets, etc., you'll see that cryogenics is something that comes with that. The art of tapping energy at very low temperatures is called as cryogenics. The very fact that very low temperature, and the diagram here itself will show that cryosphere is to do with very, 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 very low temperatures. Okay, and that is why you'll see 2006, suddenly people started speaking about having a separate ocean for themselves. Okay, themselves in the sense, out of these oceans, they carved out what was called as the Southern Ocean. 60 degrees latitude south and onwards, all the way to the shores of the Antarctic continent. All those waters came to be called as the Southern Ocean. Southern Ocean, and that's the importance of cryosphere. While we thought for a significant period of time that These are environments where hardly any life grows and human beings are not related to that. But somewhere you'll see that all these things were actually in connection to each other. And as a consequence, we now know that we are required to bring in that aspect also when we study geography, when we study land, water, and air, and of course the life associated on land, water, and air, and how this life gets say impacted by the very low temperatures at the poles, and of course the third pole. Where is the third pole? The third pole, of course, is the Himalayas, the complex of the Himalayas, the height to which the Himalayas grow, 8,000 meters plus. That is the third area where a huge amount of ice on this planet accumulates. In fact, you'll see that if you this is again something that should interest a geographer, that what is the amount or the percentage of population that is dependent on the Himalayas? Now you would say, how are the Himalayas to associate with the population? Please remember, the Himalayas are source to major rivers, and in fact you'll see that it's these rivers, okay, like the Indus, it flows into Pakistan, and then you have the Ganga, and then you have the Brahmaputra, and then you have the Irrawaddy, and of course the rivers into China. If you put all of them together, you'll see that this doesn't come to less than 3 billion of population. India, China themselves is 2.5 billion, and Pakistan, Bangladesh, all of them put together, this is going to surely cross 3 billion. So the Himalayas are responsible for, though a very harsh climatic condition, but an output of that is the rivers, which give you the lands on which you have agriculture, on which you have population surviving, which is nearly 50% of the whole population of the world. That is how a geographer has to think, and that is why I told you all, getting to the core of any subject. You may be doing geography, you may be doing any other subjects in the human. Get to the core of it. What does this study? What does this subject study? How do I relate this particular subject to everything that is happening around me? Do I regionalize things? Are things moving? Okay, so all this has to be understood in the whole context, in the broader context as such. So that is as far as the five spheres I would now call as far as geography is concerned. And here is where your answers would differ to others, because I'm bet sure that cryosphere is something which is not going to be discussed in other colleges. That's the benefit of being in an autonomous college. Okay, you'll see that we add value to the already existing subject as such. These are the five realms, you would say, as far as the earth is concerned, the four regular and the fifth sphere as such. And that is why when people ask me that there is a book which has been published around, and it has been authored by you, I always tell them, if you have me teaching you, okay, why do you want the picture of the horse when the horse himself is in front of you? Okay, because there are limitations as far as that particular book is concerned. I don't mind you all taking, of course, it's going to be my business because I'm one of the authors for that. But as I said, that the more you concentrate on my lectures and take down important points from the lectures as such, is going to be further more beneficial to you all as students of SP College as such. So should we go? Yeah, tomorrow, next time we meet, we are going to go into the details of the various branches, the next step into the syllabus as such. But today we'll stop here, and let's see for the next 5 minutes or so if we can have any questions as such, and we can take something for discussion. Okay, now let me see what Bahar Dige says. By when do we have to submit the assignments about these 5 themes? I did not ask you all to assignments. You keep the notes with you. I'll ask you to submit your assignments. Don't worry. Okay, then he says that, sir, could you give a more detailed difference between place and regions? Their definitions seem to overlap. Yeah, you'll see that place. Now there are various ways. As I said, a geographer, a jack of all trades, could give you a variety of explanations to this, but very basic things. Place, I would say, is more human, and region, on a very broad scale, place is more human, and you'll see that region could be natural. I don't think you could take a human region and you would not take a natural place, right? So when you think of place, it is more about a human entity. When you speak about a region, it is more of a natural entity. I would further say that place scale wise is smaller, and region scale wise is larger. Okay, so when you meet with when you meet something, at which place are we meeting? We don't speak to each other in the sense of at which region are we meeting. We say, which place do we meet? Do we meet at McD's, or do we meet at what, Starbucks, or do we meet at Domino's, wherever? That's a place. So scale wise, place is small. And of course, as far as region wise, we don't say McDonald is a region, it's a place. Remember, so McDonald's is something constructed by a human being. So that's why, as an individual, I would give you an explanation that as far as a place is concerned, it's more humanistic. As far as a region is concerned, it is more naturalistic, or natural as such. Very interesting question, and good that you brought it up, Bahar. Yeah, I would be waiting for a few more questions. If you have them, we could discuss them. Otherwise, we have consumed 46 minutes of our lecture. If you have any questions on what we have done, you could just type them. Any queries that we have had, you have had for the day, you could just ask them on this, okay, so that we can put to utilization the rest of the 4 or 5 minutes that we have. Otherwise, I'll just wait for another 30 seconds, and then let us call it a day. I'm waiting for your questions, just in case you have any. I hope Bahar has got his answer for um, the subtle difference that you have between a place and a region. I'm just going to check. I would say, why don't you all put, of course, it's very good that you put up a good morning, but if you work on some questions and you have some questions ready for me for the next day, I'll just check with them. If I'm able to answer them at the point itself, I will do that, or we'll come back next day, and that would ensure that you have started thinking about the subject also. That is why I want you all to think about it, formulate your questions. Any nonsense questions would do. Okay, because as I said, geography is anything, literally anything, any question. If it's going to interest the larger section, yes, I would answer it here itself. It is going to interest the smaller section, we could do it on the group. Or if it is going to be an individual question, I could answer that question individually also. So I see that you do not have any major question for me for the day, at least. But I would like to remind you all, go through those articles. Okay, let us have discussions on those articles that I scan and post for you all. Okay, such a wonderful, say, sense of English. It's not only the geography about movement and that. You'll see how subtle that the writer. Okay, I'm referring to the article posted yesterday. To what extent the human mind can think about what pleasures we derive, and how for a significant period of time we had literally taken these pleasures for granted. She refers to a ride in the school bus. Okay, you'll see that for many of us it would have just been a travel, but you'll see that she explains as to how children derive utmost pleasure, which is equivalent to attending a school. Okay, now you realize just attending a school and college in front of each other is not socialization. It's not sociology. It's not it's not. It does not make society. In fact, you get very abstract. Okay, so uh, and of course, I would want you all to go back to that particular article, see the excellent use of English that the author has made, and the stream of events, how she puts, and how mobility is very important, uh, is of that important. Okay, by that time I have a few questions. Sachin says that he wants me to repeat about the cryosphere. Cryosphere is that environmental sphere which operates at very low temperatures. I would say -0 degrees. That environment, those regions on the surface of this planet which operate ecosystems at minus temperatures, below 0 degrees temperatures, is called as cryosphere. Your poles are cryospheres. The southern pole and the northern pole are cryospheres. And of course, the third pole, that's the Himalayan complex. Of course, the Rockies, the top of the Rockies. Then you'll have small patches of cryosphere in different regions. And That is what about cryosphere, and the cryogenics that I spoke about. It's used in satellite technology. You'll see that they generate the fuel. They use the fuel at very low temperature to push up these rockets, and that is called as cryogenics. You can look for these words for further details as far as Google is concerned. Okay, if you have got the answer, fine. But then I have another question which has come up, and that is, sir, could you please explain a little more about human environment interaction? Yes, Nupur, I'm going to get back to that when we are going to go into the further details as far as the whole aspect, the whole essence of geography itself. You'll see that geography cannot be studied only in the human aspect, neither can it be studied only in the natural aspect. It's a perfect blend. Okay, and that's why you'll see that it's called as the oldest subject. It's called as the mother of all sciences. You'll see that it does not require a laboratory of its own. You'll see that the whole world is its lab, and so on and so forth. Yes, we are going to come back to that, but that's a topic which needs to be given more justice, and with not more than a few seconds left for us, I would not want to go into the details right now. I will bring some more points next time, and let us see if we can put up something as far as the interaction between man and environment. In fact, you'll see that anything, okay, in fact, you could do these experiments on your own, that anything that is happening around us, okay, anything that you touch, see whether it is human or natural, anything that you are seeing on the television screens, anything that you are seeing on the roads, try to see. If you see a tree on the road, what aspect is it? That's natural aspect. If you cut the tree and you burn the logs, you'll see you get a human natural environment. If you give water that to that particular tree, if you give fertilizer to that particular tree and make it grow, again that's an interaction. First one was negative, this is positive. Okay, you'll see that as far as an asphalt road, a tar road is concerned, whether that is a human aspect, whether that is a natural aspect. The fuel that you use in your vehicles, natural aspect, human aspect. Okay, the vehicles that move around you. Okay, you see these vehicles moving in a linear way, but you'll see birds flying in a three-dimensional way. So any minute thing that you can think about, okay, that you can observe, म्हणजे आपण हिंदी मध्ये म्हणतो ना, that you can आप महसूस कर सकते, anything that you can just feel around you, you can immediately try to think about whether this is natural, whether this is artificial, and that will give you the whole scope of geography as to what all in the whole essence that you have as far as learning geography is concerned. Anyway, I've exceeded my time by 2.5 minutes. Thank you for being with me, around 40 of y'all. I'm ending my broadcast. Happy weekend. Stay safe. Okay, stay home.